Master tailor Quentin Cross occupied the most prestigious corner of the station's artisan quarter, his workshop a masterpiece of organized chaos. Bolts of fabric from across the galaxy created rainbow walls, while measuring devices both ancient and ultra-modern hung from every available surface. The man himself was a study in contrasts, elderly but spry, traditionally dressed yet surrounded by cutting-edge technology. "So," he said, setting down his quantum measuring tape after completing his assessment of Zafira, "Madame Celeste sends me someone who needs more than clothes. She needs an identity." Zafira, now comfortable in the bioresponsive garments she'd chosen from various shops, studied the tailor with interest. "I know who I am. I am Zafira of the Crystal Groves. But I do not know who I am here, among the thousands." Quentin smiled, an expression of deep satisfaction crossing his weathered features. Exactly the right question. "Most beings come to me, knowing what they want to look like. You're asking who you want to be." He moved through his workshop with practiced grace, pulling fabrics and accessories seemingly at random. "Tell me about your groves. What did they mean to you?" As Zafira described her forest home, the way light played through crystal leaves, the songs that connected all living things, the sense of being part of something greater than herself, Quentin's hands worked steadily. He layered materials, each choice deliberate yet intuitive. "Oh? You see," he explained to Marcus, who watched the process with fascination, "most beings dress to fit in or stand out. But some rare individuals dress to bridge worlds. Your Zafira isn't trying to become civilized. She's trying to remain herself while engaging with civilization." The garment taking shape on his work table defied easy categorization. The base was a flowing jumpsuit in deep forest green, but embedded throughout were fiber-optic threads that pulsed gently with light. The effect was subtle yet unmistakable, like seeing bioluminescence through leaves. "The fabric will respond to your emotional state," Quentin explained, as Zafira touched the material. "But unlike those flashy mood clothes in the mall, this will be gentle, sophisticated, a whisper rather than a shout." Next came accessories, a shoulder piece crafted from synthetic crystal that caught light like her forest home. Boots that seemed to be made from living wood but were actually bioprinted polymers. And a hair ornament that resembled flowing water, frozen in time. "But the most important piece," Quentin said solemnly, "is this." He held up what appeared to be a simple pendenta, small crystals suspended in a delicate setting. "It's beautiful," Zafira said, "but what makes it special?" "It's a translator matrix," Quentin explained, fastening it around her neck. "Not for languages, you've clearly mastered that. It translates concepts. When someone sees you, they won't just see an exotic alien in strange clothes. They'll understand on some subconscious level that you're someone who brings different worlds together." As Zafira put on the complete ensemble, something remarkable happened. The various elements didn't just coordinate, they harmonized, creating an effect that was greater than the sum of its parts. She looked like herself, but somehow more so. Wild yet sophisticated, natural yet civilized, alien yet approachable. "Now," Quentin said with satisfaction, "you can walk into any gathering in the galaxy and belong there while remaining true to yourself." Zafira studied her reflection in the workshop's full-length mirror, her expression thoughtful. "I understand. Now, clothes are not masks to hide behind or costumes to pretend. They are." She searched for the right words. "They are like translator between the self and the world." Marcus felt a surge of pride watching her. In just a few days, she had gone from someone who knew nothing about civilization to someone who understood one of its most complex aspects, better than most lifelong residents. "So," he said, offering her his arm, "ready to see what the galaxy has to offer?" Zafira smiled, her new clothes shimmering softly with her joy. "Yes, but first, I must learn about this thing called shopping. For shoes, Blitz says there are 17 different categories, and I find this fascinating." Marcus laughed, realizing that their adventure was just beginning. "Then let's go find some shoes." As they left Quentin's workshop, the master tailor watched them go with satisfaction. Another successful transformation, not just of appearance, but of understanding. In helping an alien girl learn about clothes, They had all learned something about the deeper connections that bind civilized beings together. The asteroid field stretched endlessly through space. Metal that most pilots avoided? Captain Jace Meridian wasn't most pilots. His weathered hands guided the salvage vessel Drifter's Dream between spinning chunks of debris, eyes scanning for anything worth the fuel it took to reach this forgotten corner of the Cerberus Nebula. Another dry run, he muttered, reaching for the coffee that had gone cold hours ago. 3 weeks since his last decent score, and the creditors back on Nexus Station were getting impatient. The ship's reactor needed parts, his permit was expiring, and his luck seemed to have finally run out. After 15 years of scraping by on society's edges, the proximity alarm chirped softly. Jace frowned at the scanner, displaced something metallic. Too regular to be natural rock. He adjusted course, weaving through a particularly dense cluster of asteroids until the object came into view. Well, I'll be damned. The vessel was unlike anything in the standard databases. Sleek curves of what looked like living metal, pulsing with faint bioluminescent patterns, even in its damaged state. One wing had been sheared clean off, and atmosphere leaked from multiple hull breaches. Whatever it was, it hadn't been here. Long JC ran a full-spectrum scan. The readings made no sense. Organic and mechanical signatures overlapping. Energy patterns that shouldn't exist according to known physics. But the life support readings were clear enough. One survivor barely clinging to consciousness. He'd salvaged hundreds of wrecks over the years, but never with anyone still alive inside. The smart play would be to report it to the authorities. Let them deal with whatever diplomatic complications an unknown alien survivor might bring. Smart didn't pay the bills, though, and something about those strange energy signatures suggested this find could be worth more than a few years of careful salvage work. The docking process took 20 minutes of delicate maneuvering. The alien hull seemed to respond to his ship's proximity, sealing some of the smaller breaches and extending what might have been docking clamps, as if the ship itself was trying to facilitate rescue. Jace suited up and cycled through the airlock, portable life support unit in hand. The alien vessel's interior defied easy description walls that seemed to pulse like living tissue, control surfaces that flowed like mercury when he approached. Everything was sized for humanoid occupants, though clearly not human ones. He found the survivor in what must have been the ship's center, suspended in some kind of crystalline cocoon that pulsed with the same bioluminescent patterns as the hull. Through the transparent material, he could see her, definitely female, definitely not human. Tall, elegant features that seemed carved from starlight itself, with skin that shifted between silver and deep blue, like moonlight on water. Her breathing was shallow but steady. The cocoon opened at his touch, releasing her into his arms. She was surprisingly light, her body temperature several degrees cooler than human normal. As he lifted her, her eyes fluttered open, completely black, like looking into deep space, but filled with an intelligence that made his breath catch. "Please," she whispered, in accented but clear standard. "They cannot." Find me then. She was unconscious again, leaving Jace alone with more questions than answers and the growing certainty that his quiet life as a salvage pilot had just come to an end. Zara Kethmira awoke to the scent of human technology metal, recycled air, and the faint chemical temps of industrial cleaners. The last thing she remembered was her ship dying around her, the hegemony hunters closing in like a pack of void wolves. Now, she lay on a simple medical cot, her wounds tended with surprising competence. The human sat nearby, reading something on a datapad. Mid-30s, she estimated, with the lean build of someone who lived on ration packs and protein supplements. His brown hair was unkempt, and several days of stubble shadowed his jaw. Spacer tattoos marked his forearms' coordinates, probably of places that mattered to him. "You're awake," he said, setting aside the pad. "I'm Jace. You've been unconscious for 18 hours. Where are we?" Her voice came out rougher than intended. Regeneration cocoon had healed her physical wounds, but exhaustion ran deeper than flesh. "My ship, the Drifter's Dream. We're currently hiding in an asteroid field about 6 parsecs from where I found you." He leaned forward slightly. "Want to tell me who's hunting you with military-grade plasma cannons?" Zara studied his face, looking for signs of deception or greed. She found neither, just genuine curiosity, mixed with the wariness of someone who'd learned not to trust easily. The irony wasn't lost on her that the last hope of her species might rest with a human salvage pilot who probably couldn't afford a proper meal. "My name is Zara Kethmira," she began. "I am the last of the Valtheri." The word hung between them like a funeral shroud. She watched Jace's expression shift as the implications sank in. Last as in ... the only one left. As in my entire species was exterminated 3 cycles ago. The words still tasted like ash in her mouth. The hegemony declared us a biological hazard because our genetic structure doesn't conform to their ideas of natural evolution. Jace was quiet for a long moment, processing this. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that suggested he'd seen more than his share of cruelty. "I'm sorry, I can't imagine, can't you?" Zara sat up slowly, studying him with new interest. "You're human. Your species knows something about being hunted, doesn't it?" He didn't deny it, which told her more than words would have. "I need your help, Jace Meridian." She had scanned his ship's registration while recovering, not just to escape the hegemony, though that's important. "I need something more complicated." Listening, Zara stood, pacing to the small viewport. Through it, asteroids drifted like ancient bones against the starfield. My people practiced genetic bonding, what you might call marriage, though it was more scientific than romantic. 2 compatible genetic lines combining to create offspring with enhanced abilities. She turned back to face him. "I carry the complete genetic memory of my species in my cells. Every advance we made in biotechnology, every adaptation we developed over millennia of evolution. But that knowledge dies with me unless I can create an heir to carry it forward." Jace's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "You're asking me?" 2. I'm asking you to help me save everything my people were, and everything they might have become." She stepped closer, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. "I know how it sounds. Barely know each other. But I've studied human genetic structure during my recovery, and you're remarkably compatible with Valthari physiology." "Compatible how?" "Our offspring would be able to survive in environments that would kill either of our parent species. They would have access to both human adaptability and Valthari biotechnology. They would be something new, a bridge between what we were and what we might become." Jace ran a hand through his hair, looking overwhelmed. "This is insane." "I guess," Zara agreed. "It is. But it's also the only chance my species has for any kind of continuation." "I'm not asking for love, Jace. I'm asking for hope." Outside the viewport, an asteroid tumbled slowly past, its surface scarred by eons of cosmic impacts. Zara watched it disappear into the darkness and wondered if she was asking too much of a stranger who had already saved her life once. "I need time to think," Jace said finally. "Time is something we may not have much of," she replied. "But I understand." Commander Thane Voss stood before the tactical display in the command center of the Hegemony Dreadnought Purifier, watching red dots crawl across the star map. Each dot represented a search pattern, a methodical sweep designed to flush out the last Valthari like a parasite from healthy tissue. "Status report," he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had overseen the cleansing of 17 worlds. Lieutenant Morris stepped forward, datapad in hand. Long-range sensors detected the debris field from the Valthari. Vessel approximately 19 hours ago. Analysis confirmed she ejected in an escape pod before the ship's destruction, but we found no trace of the pod itself. Voss studied the tactical display with the patience of a predator. 43 years old, with prematurely silver hair and eyes like chips of ice. He had made his career on the principle that genetic purity was the foundation of galactic stability. The Valthari, with their ability to rewrite their own DNA and adapt to any environment, represented the ultimate threat to that stability. "She didn't just disappear," he said. "Someone picked her up." "Sir, the nearest shipping lanes are 12 parsecs away. The probability of random rescue is irrelevant." Voss cut him off. "The Valthari are master geneticists. They think in terms of probability and adaptation. She wouldn't have fled to empty space hoping for luck." He activated the ship's communication array, his image appearing on screens throughout the hegemony fleet. All vessels, this is Commander Voss. You are now hunting the most dangerous individual in known space. The last Volthari carries within her genetic code the potential to spawn a new generation of genetic deviants. The faces looking back at him showed the proper mixture of determination and disgust. Good fear was a useful tool, but conviction was stronger. She is likely accompanied by collaborators, criminals, pirates, or worse. Anyone found harboring her will be considered complicit in crimes against genetic purity and dealt with accordingly. Captain Reynolds of the Destroyer Cleanser raised her hand. Sir, what about civilian casualties? The shipping lanes in this sector are acceptable losses. Boss's tone brooked no argument. Every day she remains free is another day she might contaminate the galaxy with her spawn. I would rather see 100 innocent merchants dead than allow that abomination to reproduce. He terminated the connection and turned back to the tactical display. Somewhere in that vast expanse of space, the Valthari was planning her next move. But Voss had advantages she couldn't match in limited resources. Fanatically loyal crew and the backing of the hegemony's vast intelligence network. Lieutenant Morris, I want deep scans of every salvage vessel, cargo hauler, and private craft that's passed through this sector in the last 72 hours. Cross-reference with known smuggling routes and black market traders. That's over 3,000 vessels, sir. Oh. Then we'd better get started. Voss pulled up a holographic image of the Valthari from her species' genetic registry. Even he had to admit she was beautiful, old, and graceful, with the kind of ethereal features that made humans write poetry. It would make her easier to track. Beauty like that left memorable impressions. Sir, the communications officer called out, we're receiving a priority transmission from Hegemony Intelligence. Route it to my private channel. The hologram that appeared in his quarters was of Director Kane, the Hegemony's chief intelligence operative. The man's scarred face showed no emotion as he delivered his report. Commander, we've intercepted chatter from several independent operators in the Cerberus Nebula. Someone's been asking questions about safe passage to the Outer Rim. The descriptions match our target. How reliable is this intelligence? Reliable enough to be worth investigating? I'm transmitting the coordinates of 3 possible destinations, hidden bases used by smugglers and pirates. If she's seeking sanctuary, one of these locations would be her most likely choice. Voss studied the coordinates, already calculating jump sequences and deployment strategies. Any indication of who might be helping her? Several possibilities. The most likely candidate is a salvage operator named Jace Meridian. His ship was in the area when she disappeared, and his record shows a history of anti-hegemony sentiment. His end. Me, his file. The data that appeared made Voss smile, the first genuine expression of pleasure he'd shown in days. Jace Meridian, former hegemony military, discharged under suspicious circumstances. Perfect. Director, I want surveillance on anyone this Meridian has ever known. Friends, family, business associates. If he's helping her, he'll need resources, and that means contacts. Already in motion, Commander? After Kane's image disappeared, Voss stood alone in his quarters, staring out at the starfield. Soon, very soon, the last threat to Galactic genetic purity would be eliminated. With her would die the final echo of the Valthari's dangerous dream of adaptation and change. Elder Finn Corvo had been hiding from the galaxy for 37 years, and he'd gotten very good at it. His colony on the Zara Prime existed in the spaces between star charts, a moon officially listed as uninhabitable due to radiation levels, that kept the hegemony's survey ships at a safe distance. What the surveys hadn't detected was the network of natural caves that honeycombed the moon's interior, shielded from radiation and perfect for those who needed to disappear. He watched the approaching ship through the underground observatory's telescopes, his weathered hands steady despite his 78 years. The vessel was small, clearly modified for long-range travel, and broadcasting the recognition codes that had cost him considerable resources to maintain. Few people knew about the Zara Prime, and fewer still were trusted with the means to find it. Another refugee? Asked Mira, his second-in-command. At 45, she was the closest thing the colony had to military leadership, having served as a hegemony marine before her conscience caught up with her orders. "Two of them," Finn replied, adjusting the telescope's focus. "And unless I'm mistaken, one of them isn't human." The ship settled onto the landing pad with practiced skill. Finn made his way to the surface airlock, accompanied by Mira and 2 other colonists. In 37 years of offering sanctuary to the galaxy's unwanted, he'd learned to be cautious about new arrivals. The airlock cycled, and 2 figures emerged. The human male looked like what he was, a spacer down on his luck, nervous and alert. But the female made Finn's breath catch in his throat. Tall and elegant, with skin that seemed to capture and reflect the moon's pale light, she moved with a grace that spoke of genetic advantages beyond human normal. "I'm Jace Meridian," the human said. "We sent a transmission requesting sanctuary. I received it." Finn studied them both carefully. "Though you were less than specific about the nature of your situation," the female stepped forward. "I am Zara. Kethmira, I believe you knew my people once." Finn's eyes widened. He had indeed known the Valthari decades ago when he'd been a xenobiologist studying genetic adaptation. Their biotechnology had been decades ahead of anything the hegemony possessed. Their understanding of evolutionary mechanics almost mystical in its sophistication. "I thought your people were all dead." "Yes, they are." Zara's voice carried the weight of civilizations. "I am the last. Dear God." Finn gestured toward the colony entrance. "Come, we have much to discuss." The colony proper was a wonder of adaptive engineering. 200 souls lived in the converted cave system, creating a community that was part sanctuary, part research. Station, part underground city. Gardens grew under artificial sunlight. Workshops produced everything from clothing to computer components. And libraries preserved knowledge that the hegemony would have gladly burned. In Finn's private study, surrounded by books and scientific equipment, Zara told her story. The genocide, her escape, and the proposal she'd made to Jace. Finn listened without interruption, his expression growing more troubled with each detail. "You're asking me to house a walking genetic revolution," he said when she finished. "Hegemony has placed a price on your head that could buy a small fleet." "I'm not asking for charity," Zara replied. "My people's biotechnology could benefit everyone here. I can share techniques for genetic adaptation, disease resistance, longevity enhancement. At what cost?" Finn's voice was gentle but firm. "Young lady, I've spent 4 decades keeping this place secret. One slip, one person who decides that bounty is worth betraying us all, and everyone here dies." Jace spoke for the first time since entering the study. "She's not just some refugee. She's carrying the genetic memory of an entire civilization. If that knowledge dies with her, then it dies." Finn's interruption was sharp. "I've seen what happens when people try to play God with genetics. The hegemony's purification campaign started with noble intentions, eliminating genetic diseases, enhancing human capabilities. Look where it led." Zara stood pacing to a shelf lined with preserved specimens. "You think I'm like them? You think I'll create abominations?" "I think you're desperate. Desperate people make dangerous choices. The only dangerous choice would be letting my people's legacy die out of fear." She turned back to face him. "I'm not asking you to understand, Elder Corvo. I'm asking you to have faith." Finn was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. Finally, he sighed. "There's a section of the caves we've never fully explored. It's deep enough to be isolated, large enough for ... expansion. You can stay there." "Thank you. I'm not finished." His voice carried authority earned through decades of leadership. "You want to create offspring? Fine, but they grow up here under my supervision. They learn about responsibility along with genetics. And if I ever see signs that they're becoming what the hegemony claims to fear, I'll handle the situation myself." Your Zara nodded slowly. "Those terms are acceptable." "Good, because there's something else you should know." Finn activated a holographic display showing the space around the Sara Prime. Hegemony patrol ships have been increasing their sweeps of this sector. Someone's been asking questions. On the display, distant red dots marked the positions of hunting vessels, growing closer to their hidden sanctuary with each passing day. 5 years had passed since Zara Kethmira first walked into the depths of the Sara Prime, carrying the weight of extinction on her shoulders. Now she stood in the colony's newest section. Watching her children play among the bioluminescent gardens she had grown from Valtheri seed stalks. There were 3 of them. Kale, the eldest at 4, had inherited his father's stubborn curiosity and his mother's ability to communicate with living systems. Even now, he was coaxing new growth patterns from the coral trees, his small hands glowing faintly as he interfaced with their genetic structures. The twins, Luna and Sol, were barely walking but already showed signs of enhanced adaptation. Their eyes adjusted automatically to changes in light, and their skin shifted temperature to match their environment. Jace emerged from the workshop he'd built deeper in the caves, his clothes stained with the organic compounds Zara used in her research. Their partnership had evolved from necessity to something neither had expected, not love in the traditional human sense, but something deeper, recognition of shared purpose, of 2 people creating something unprecedented together. "How's the latest batch coming along?" he asked, settling beside her on the carved stone bench. "The hegemony immunity treatments are showing promising results," Zara replied. "Another 6 months, and we should be able to protect the entire colony from their genetic scanners." It had been her greatest contribution to the Sara Prime biotechnology that could make anyone undetectable to the hegemony's standard identification systems. A gift that had bought their acceptance and turned Sanctuary into genuine home. "Elder Finn wants to see you," Jace said. "He's received some interesting communications." They found Finn in the colony's communication center, surrounded by displays showing signals from across the galaxy. At 73, he had grown frailer, but his eyes still held the sharp intelligence that had kept them all alive. "Zara, my dear, we have a situation that I think you'll find fascinating." He gestured to one of the displays. "We've been monitoring hegemony communications, as usual. But in the last month, we've detected something unexpected." The display showed genetic analysis, reports, dozens of them, from worlds throughout hegemony space. Zara studied the data, her expression growing more amazed with each file. "These readings? They're Valtheri markers, not full Valtheri," Finn corrected. "Hybrid signatures. It seems your people had more survivors than anyone knew, and they've been doing exactly what you did, find incompatible partners. Creating children who carry forward the genetic legacy." Jace leaned over the display. "How many?" "We've identified at least 47 hybrid children born in the last 5 years, Finn said. "And that's just from intercepted medical records. The actual number is probably much higher." Zara felt something she hadn't experienced since the night her world burned, hope that extended beyond her own small family. "They're creating a network, a hidden population." More than that, Finn brought up another display, this one showing communication patterns. "They're talking to each other, creating a support system." "Your people aren't extinct, Zara. They're evolving." Over the following weeks, Zara worked with the colony's communication specialists to establish contact with the hidden network of Valthari survivors and their human partners. What she discovered amazed her, not just reproduction, but innovation. Each family group had adapted Valthari biotechnology to their specific circumstances, creating new techniques, new possibilities. A family on Rigel 7 had developed crops that could grow in toxic soil. A group hiding in the asteroid belt had created atmospheric processors that could terraform dead worlds in decades rather than centuries. On a dozen different worlds, human Valthari children were growing up with capabilities that surpassed both parent species. "We're not saving the Valthari," Zara told Jace one evening as they watched their children sleep. "We're creating something new. Is that good or bad?" he asked. "It's evolution," she replied. "Neither good nor bad, just necessary." Outside their chambers, the Sara Prime hummed with new life. The radiation that had once made the moon uninhabitable was being slowly processed by Valthari-designed organisms, creating an atmosphere that could one day support surface habitation. The hidden colony was becoming something unprecedented, a world where humans and Valthari descendants could build a future together. In the depths of space, Commander Voss continued his hunt, unaware that his quarry had already won. The last Valthari was no longer the last, and the future she was creating would reshape the galaxy in ways neither he nor the hegemony could imagine. As Kale's small hand glowed brighter in his sleep, interfacing with the living walls of their chamber, Zara smiled. Her people's greatest gift had always been adaptation. Now, merged with human resilience and determination, that gift would ensure not just survival, but transformation. The age of genetic purity was ending. The age of hybrid evolution had begun. And somewhere in the vast network of hidden families and growing children, the future was taking its first steps toward the stars.